You will have noticed, most of us will have noticed, that our power bills are going up and that a number of industries and quite serious and significant employers are shutting their doors because of the price of power and a shortage of power in New Zealand. And you will be reading much gnashing of teeth in newspapers over what has happened and whose fault it is. Just point that towards you, John. That's it. And really it all comes down to oil and gas and natural resources, which New Zealand actually has potentially quite an abundance of, but we certainly stopped looking for stuff under the Labour Greens government. In fact, they put a moratorium, a ban, if you like, on oil and gas exploration, a ban that was rapidly lifted by the new coalition government. But it may take some time for us to reap the benefits of this. And this week, the Energy Resources Aotearoa, an umbrella lobby group that represents the oil and gas industry in New Zealand and others in the mineral industry, came out and said, for goodness sake, we need a policy that is pan-political on this. Because, of course, Chris Hipkins's been running around saying we're going to put the ban back on. This is problematic, is it not, John Carnegie? Because who would invest and start the expensive process of exploration if it's possible that in 2 years the rug gets pulled, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the problem, Sean.
Yeah.
The introduction of the ban in 2018 basically threw cross-party consensus in the bin.
Had there been cross-party consensus up until then?
Yeah.
I didn't realise that.
Well, look, that's an interesting question, actually, because, because cross-party consensus is basically about they agree to the fundamental outcomes of an energy system.
Yeah.
And then, each political party can have their view on the how to deliver that. And it's been tested before, so I don't know whether you'll recall the New Zealand Power proposal, from the Labour and Greens, which basically said they were going to institute a single purchaser and a single wholesale seller. Now, while that tested the very boundaries of cross-party consensus, it didn't breach it because basically it was a contestable bit of policy around how to deliver affordable electricity, right? And it was well socialised, well talked about. There were academic papers on it. However, the oil and gas ban, out of the blue, binary.
How long ago was that?
And how long ago was what?
The oil and gas ban.
2018 it was introduced. Formally passed in legislation towards the end of that year, I think, if I can remember correctly. Interestingly, it's still in place. The government has announced that it will remove it.
But it hasn't legislatively. I would have thought that would have been in the first 100-day plan, to be honest.
Me too.
Wow.
But it's still in place, and actually that's creating some issues for how much the oil and gas producers can help for, winter 26 and now actually winter 27.
I want to go back firstly to the 2018 ban. Green and Labour, you say it was done without consultation. It was they threw out the previous consensus on major energy policy. Okay. What impact has that had in 6 years? And are the problems we are having now with energy attributable to that ban?
Well, let's deal with the second part first. Yes, but not wholly.
Right.
So basically we've got we've had the perfect storm. In fact, we've had storms and the lakes are filling up and you'll have seen electricity prices come back. So we've had historic low lake levels, and we're a hydro-dominated system, so that's obviously contributed. But we've also had a lack of gas-fired, it's called thermal, power station capacity, and then fuel, of course. So when you combine those things, you get into perfect storm territory. Effectively, you've got two things. You've got an energy system where you're dependent actually on it raining. Doesn't seem to be a great way to run an energy system. And the second thing is you're also dependent on major industrials turning down, which again isn't a great way to run your energy system. And so, we've seen Tiwai, who I presume was incredibly surprised to find that they were having their demand response called on so quickly, having signed the contract.
Yeah.
And Methanex effectively shuttering for 3 months to help keep the lights on in the electricity system by giving the electricity generators fuel.
Wow.
So now just remind me, what was your first part to that question?
No, let's move on, because I think that's one of the things I wanted to get to. The truth is also, is it not, you say that, the ban hasn't been lifted legislatively. The fact is, if it was lifted tomorrow, if the government called urgency tomorrow and lifted the ban, that would do zilch, zip, nothing next week to bring my power bill down or solve the problems we've got right now.
Yeah, well, again, there's some nuance in that.
Yeah.
So you and I haven't seen the impact of the high electricity prices because we're on what's called fixed price variable volume contracts, and they tend to get rolled over annually.
Yeah.
So, if we were to have these high prices flow through into next year, then when our pricing is reset, we might see them. So 95% of New Zealanders haven't experienced this. Unfortunately, our industrial sector has experienced it. So in terms of how quickly can we get natural gas? Well, obviously now there's a conversation about importing foreign gas versus our local produced gas. We think that under the right commercial and regulatory conditions, domestic gas will become available. We can't say how much and how quickly, but it's likely, actually, all things being equal, likely to be quicker than importing LNG.
All right. So there is a solution there.
Yeah.
What happens to that solution and to your industry when Chris Hipkins says, we'll just turn it back?
Well, that's exactly why we need cross-party consensus. These are long-lived assets. In fact, it's interesting because people focus on the oil and gas producers in terms of the impact of the massive impact of sovereign risk. Actually, it's going to affect LNG imports because, again, you've got a 20, 30, 40-year lived asset. Who's going to invest in that if you're under the same conditions? Gas-fired peaking power stations, which everyone acknowledges we need. Again, imagine
and those are the ones
taking
that
that
when
to your
demand peaks, you turn on the gas fire.
It's quick. It's like you can get 6 and 15 second basically.
It's like your emergency Jenny, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. It's But who would take that to their board when the first question any reasonable board will ask is, tell me about this 100% renewable target. Is that coming? Is that coming back? And what will happen when there's a change of government in, let's be hopeful, 9 years' time?
Yeah. I also imagine for explorers, and let's be honest, we're a country of 5 million people. We do not have the expertise, the capital bulk and heft to have our own locally sourced exploration, oil and gas exploration people. It's too big, too expensive an industry. So we've got to have people from offshore coming in.
Yeah, but we've got a reasonably healthy ecosystem and industry in the Taranaki, of course, which is where all our producing basins are.
Okay.
But, when it's things like, do we need to undertake a drilling campaign? Well, then that's when you see the big rigs coming in from offshore.
All right. We are further away than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, we most certainly are.